Good afternoon, Jackie and Sharon. How do you analyze the needs of the parish communities and identify areas that need to be developed in this ministry?
You know, when I was looking at that question, we've done a mix of a lot of things. We've done surveys. It's a topic that comes up practically at every church meeting that I attend. It is, you are always kind of taking the pulse of people. We, identified a place that young mothers were, for example, were feeling just kind of, where am I in this whole picture? And we encouraged them to begin what we term the Young Moms group. This is something that's in a lot of parishes, but it had not been really a structured one in ours. They have done some really neat things, and the invitation is, always including not just the group that's started, but also other young moms, to invite them into the mix. And they've expanded into other kind of areas, but they've become a really important part, I think, of our parish. So sometimes they're self-identified needs. Sometimes it's needs that we've recognized but haven't really found the right way to respond, or in the best way that, sometimes things get shoved under the rug. They shouldn't, but you can't do everything. You try to do some things very well, but identifying needs is just a critical piece of the picture.
So do you have your parishes all together? There are 3 parishes, 4 parishes all together?
3 parishes that work together on faith formation here.
What are those parishes?
Albia, Georgetown, and La Villa. And we do have a combined faith formation committee that has representatives from all 3 of those parishes on that committee. We meet quarterly, or try to meet at least quarterly. And I would agree with Jackie. A lot of it is just being aware and tuning in to what you hear people saying. At one point, I heard people say, we need a class that really just kind of goes Catholicism 101, that tunes us back into what we probably ought to know, and review. And we came up with a Back to the Basics class that met once a month. They just seemed to fit that need, because that's what they were asking for, We try to keep current with current trends and that type of thing. And of course, Pope Francis is the man right now, and trying to bring some offerings in that respect.
That's great. In what ways do your parishes incorporate diverse groups into the faith life of the parish cluster?
Are you talking specifically faith formation area?
Yeah.
We basically work womb to tomb. We offer the sacramental prep programs for baptism class. We have a weekend marriage prep thing, which hits the middle or the young engaged age group. On Friday mornings, we noticed, there's a time when after Mass, they come in for coffee and donuts. They have a little bit of time to spare. So one of the things we did last year was offer Robert Barron's Catholicism one Friday a month, and that kind of worked well. So we kind of know we want to use that time frame because different people have different time schedules available. And so at the last diocesan meeting, what I heard specifically was, you can't, in order to get this diverse group of people, you can't just say the only time we're going to offer something is at after work at 7 o'clock or during the day. You have to make yourself available to people's schedules in this day and age, or they're suggesting you're in the wrong line of work.
So how do you determine that? I imagine people's schedules are
horrendous.
Well, one way, I think it's good that both of us are here because, Jackie kind of took the lead on the Friday morning group. I was taking the lead on a Monday evening group, which, you know, is the same Catholicism by Robert Barron, but that's for the people that work or that can only come, you know, on Monday night. We've even, at one point, we did like luncheon, Lenten lunch breaks that we tried to do while people were on their lunch hour.
How did that work? Was that popular?
It was attended by those who were there, and we always say you can't count on numbers, you know, where one or two are gathered, God's in our midst. And I had up to maybe 6 or 7 at one point in that group, but it fit their needs. It fit that particular group's needs.
You know, and St. Mary's, Albia, or Monroe County, you know, parishes, we always offer, anything here in Albia is always offered the same thing at Georgetown, La Villa, that they're very welcome to come in here. We have attended things there, so it's a matter of, you know, just that sharing with each other opportunities.
It's advertised in bulletins, you know, there's no differentiation, you know, between what parish do you belong to or anything like that for any of our offerings, so.
The word diversity looks different at this parish too, because we're basically a rural white parish, and basically. And so our diversity is, you see it more in age, interest, that kind of thing. You know, we haven't solved the question of how do you get young parents to come in other than our parent prep pieces, say like in reconciliation, Eucharist, confirmation, you know, those kind of things. But, you know, those count, those are important. It calls people back, it helps them to remember, oh yes, this is why I'm sending my kids on Wednesday night. They're reminded, okay, I need to do a better job coming to Mass, you know, that type of thing. So our diversity is how do you serve, you know, one group that's underserved here is the singles group, the young singles, the middle singles, the older singles. You know, and I look at the paper and we've got some things going in Iowa City and Davenport. We probably on this end of the diocese need to really plug into places like Des Moines, what have they've got going for this group. Because in Albia, that's a hard population sometimes to serve because you need a group that there's a little what is the word? You know, everybody knows everybody here, so you need a bigger diverse group, bigger population. So you try to reach out to other parishes, bigger parishes around other dioceses. How can we serve better?
When I heard that question, one way I can think about our diversity is something that we've got to be aware of with our clustering is we've got kids coming from 4 different school districts. And you know, we are very conscious of that when we do our class lists and all that so that, you know, we do not have somebody without a buddy and that type of thing. You know, we're very careful and you have to be, you've got to recognize some of those things when you're putting a couple, 2 or 3 parishes together.
How do you ensure that adult education is the axis of faith formation in your parishes?
I think you have to remember how many times you actually have adult education. You can have adult education, okay, and we do have some offerings where, okay, adults are invited to come and share, and we call it adult faith formation. But, and those would be like Bible study and different, like we said, we had Robert Barron's Catholicism. But anytime you do sacramental preparation, you're doing adult education. And so we've got our sacramental preparation for First Communion, for reconciliation, for confirmation, as Jackie said, the marriage prep. You've got to really, baptismal prep, you've got to include all that in, and we do that as a cluster.
I think one of the pieces when you're looking at adult faith formation is the liturgy. The liturgy is the central piece of a parish religious education program. And right now, because of things going on in the culture, There's a real pull on younger families, especially, that are going to, AA ball games all Sunday long. And so how do you engage all parishioners, especially younger families who are also working terrible long hours in this culture and this time, who find Sunday may be the only day of rest they really have, but yet they're missing out on the central part of why they are Catholic. They are missing out on the central catechesis moment that comes out of the homily. As a parish, we are really, it's demanded of us that this liturgy that they come to feed their soul in some way. Besides the Sunday Mass, the weekend Mass, it's other things. Some people, will respond to something like a mission. And we had one of those this year. It's not offered all the time, but, that for some people is what, they need to kind of feed their soul, other than the Sunday Mass. You always try to make available to people, leadership people, but really we make that invite to things that the diocese offers. There's the conference coming up in Des Moines. We've been sending flyers, to people. Think about this, that kind of thing.
I think another thing that we don't want to dismiss, we've really worked to build our parish library up and to get some current titles and to kind of publicize some of the things in the bulletin and that type of thing. There's different ways people can do adult education, and even if we can encourage them to, do something independently, that helps too.
Because sometimes that home study is the only time that they have.
How do you encourage increasing levels of participation in the life of the parish and the deanery and the diocese, especially being on the far western edge?
Well, one way we have encouraged this is our evangelization committee, which is made up of representatives from the different cluster parishes, and coming together. And it used to be a St. Mary's Albia committee, but it dawned on us pretty quickly that some of the things we address are things all the parishes are addressing, and that's vocations, evangelization, stewardship, and hospitality. And so we now have reps from the county parishes that come together quarterly and discuss, what are the needs, can we do? And the parish mission came out of that group. And they are the ones who we got lots of people involved, but they were the ones who kind of took the steering committee upon themselves.
Did you say the parish mission or the
it would be
evangelization?
The evangelization committee, yeah.
On that, I think one of the key things is that call to invite. Everything comes from that personal invitation, inviting people to participate, recognizing skills, not being afraid to have somebody shine. One of our young mothers, when Don Boucher was asking for a representative from the young adult ministry thing he's getting set up, I called and asked one of our people there, would she allow her name to be submitted for that? And she was quite happy to do so. Some of the emails will be going there, and I said, what you do is you go through those, you determine what the parish needs to know about, you make the contact with the front office. You give people the chance to be engaged in a better, more full way.
Right now, of course, we're looking towards RCIA for the fall, and I'm always making, and do more so as the years go along, I try to get across to the area parishes, it's not up to the RCIA team to invite or to identify. It's up to all of us to identify and to invite, to make that approach, would you have any interest in the Catholic Church? And I really do push that this time of year.
You know, you really have to, a parish has to ask the question. I got this at some program we were doing probably 20 years ago. It was a Regis Duffy segment. I can't even remember what the program was, but I remember him saying, is this a community worth belonging to? And that is, I think, the question that needs to start every parish, you know, discussion. Is this a community worth belonging to? I think it really makes you evaluate it. And, you know, that's some of the reason why people are saying no, you know. But it's also a reason people say yes. But it's that personal invitation. There's a lot of parishes saying nobody will do anything. And a lot of times it's because nobody has asked, nobody has invited, and nobody's asked the question, is this parish, is this a community worth belonging to?
And following up on that, with so much talk about evangelization, something that has stuck with me over the years is, yes, we can invite those to come into our midst, but we also have to minister to the ones who are sitting here in the pews. You know, evangelization, some of them need to be re-evangelized also. You know, what are you inviting them into, you know, the excitement. And so you've kind of got different groups that you evangelize with.
I'm just going to comment finally on one thing that seems kind of off the radar. That's our altar and rosary monthly committees. You know, they head up different things, whatever's going on in that month, funeral dinners being one of the major ones. But the chair people are so important in that, because no matter what's going on, the 30 people on their list need to be called, invited, even if you don't necessarily have anything real, even if it's just to bring a dessert at the funeral dinner. That reminds that person being called, I belong, they need me. And so during the course of the year, every family in the parish has been invited to do something. If our chair people are, you know, really tuned in the importance of their job.
That's terrific. How do you develop, plan, and evaluate parish programs, staff, and administrators to enable the entire parish to grow in its faith life?
Develop, plan, and evaluate.
I think somebody who's working in ministry nowadays really has to be tuned in to the community in which they work. And as far as evaluating, I think we're constantly evaluating. You know, I know for one, after any event I have, you know, you make those notes, I do this again, this didn't quite work or whatever. And like we had a vacation Bible school here a couple of weeks ago. We want to get together and just, you know, look at it again. Anything that you do, I think you're just constantly evaluating. And I think you want to be constantly changing it up too, you know, as society changes and people change and all that, you know, you just want to think, now what could we be doing and how could we be doing it just a little differently too?
I think it kind of goes back to what Sharon says. How well do you know the community? Because people will come up to you all the time and make suggestions. And how well do you listen as a parish? You know, I guess I don't think any parish lives on the idea, we've done it this way for 20 years, so we're going to continue to do it. I don't think they live that way anymore. We just can't, because a good parish environment, change happens. And change brings excitement, change brings energy. It's not that, you know, the really important things are kicked off the map. They're not. But they are finessed. They are made better with, you know, fresh ideas. And it's that ability to listen and that willingness to be flexible, to bring in somebody else's new and, might I say, better idea.
And I think there's always a place for positive criticism. You know, I mean, I need to listen to that. Some of my best ideas have come from something somebody has said. You know, have you ever thought you could do it this way? You know, I don't feel like I'm doing it all by myself, so.
I think how well does your parish team work, really? Really has a face of this evaluation, because it takes place, evaluations takes place in all the committees, parish councils, altar and rosaries, sitting around doing the calendar. You know, you're sharing, boy, this was a bust. Boy, this was good. You know, and, you know, if that constructive criticism within a staff and a parish, that's all it is constructive. You know, it's too bad criticism has to be part of that, you know, two-part word, because constructive evaluation maybe is what we want to say. And because it's not criticizing to suggest improving something.
And I would add that I think one of the biggest challenges today in faith formation is how to be imaginative and creative and think outside the box, because I think you've constantly got to be tuning in to changing things, you know, not being scared to risk something. Okay, do it. If it doesn't work, you know, okay, it doesn't work, but it just might work too. And so there's a great deal of risk involved, you know, and trying to come up with the way, you know, society is changing, not necessarily going with society, but just how do you work hand in glove with how society is working? How do you get people at different times of the day and night? I mean, you used to be able to think you had your weekends and Sunday mornings. Well, now people are working work shifts and, you know, terrible work shifts, and have their times off in the middle of the week and that type of thing. And you've just always got to reflect that in your planning.
The same old is not going to function very well in this mindset of today. To follow that, there was somebody in our Thursday morning Bible study. She's from outside the parish. And we were talking about where are the young families in our churches? Why are they not coming to Mass? You know, like, and we've talked about all the reasons: sports, work schedules, all that kind of stuff. And she points her finger at me and she says, "You've got to offer a Sunday evening Mass." You know they're in Des Moines going to these AEA things. You know they're in basketball tournaments Saturday and Sunday. They're gone. You have got to be willing to offer and I'm thinking to myself, I really don't want to offer a 6 o'clock Sunday. I want to be at home. And then it goes back to that person who said at the last diocesan meeting, then you're maybe in the wrong business. Because if you're serving people, it can't be on your schedule all the time. You know, Christ put himself out. As parishes, as churches, are we putting ourselves out for anybody? Or do we expect everybody to, you know, do everything according to our schedule? That's not going to work. You know, what I'm seeing, it's not going to work.
Well, thank you very much. Very helpful discussion.
Thank you, Barb.
Good afternoon, Trish.
Good afternoon, Barb.
How does Our Lady of Victory analyze the faith formation needs of the parish community and identify areas in need of development in this ministry area?
Well, we have a really large parish and a really big staff. So one of the first things we do is act as pastoral staff to be kind of keeping an eye on what's going on and how to do it. But we really took seriously about in 2003 when we did a birth to death evaluation of what we had and where we wanted to go. And then we followed it up afterwards with separate for the school and also for our parish faith formation of realistic goal setting. And we do 5-year goal setting. So it kind of covers our overall plan pretty well.
Terrific. How does your parish set goals and objectives for the development of a strategic plan that goes along with total parish planning?
Once we made the ground zero evaluation, then we set directions, which way we wanted to go and how inclusive and what we thought we would be able to focus on. And we make the 5-year plans, and they are presented annually to our Board of Ed. So that would be one thing. And then in June, we give a look at how we've done through the year. And in the next August, then a look at what we want to focus on for that August. And we have some committee support doing that as well.
Oh, that's great. How does your parish develop, plan, and evaluate parish programs, staff, and administrators that will enable the entire parish to grow in its faith life?
Well, we really do, once again, personal evaluations with how things are going, if they're being well attended and things, so that's number one. But we also have ways of looking at how they reflect the best practices for that we have been learning in our various ministry formation programs and all. So we always are looking for that. And recently we had a look at together as a staff at the book Rebuilt, and seeing how our programs and things that we do looked through the eyes of evangelization, and how we looked at and if we were accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish there. So
that's great. How does your parish incorporate the diversity of peoples into the faith life of the parish? You know, for example, ethnic groups, age groups, the homebound, people with disabilities, the marginalized.
In several ways. First of all, our text selection for our regular programming for the youth was really done with that in mind, so that's one thing. But we've always tried to include our special programming and to have things for people across the ages. So we include something that might be very important for seniors. For example, we did a funeral planning session with Monsignor during Lent this past year, and that was well attended, and we have since run out of stock on the funeral planning booklets. So we're just trying to look ahead and get the different groups and who is there. And then we have our communion visitors to the homebound that would keep them up to date with things, and the newsletters and things like that.
Great. How does your parish ensure adult education as the axis of faith formation?
Very slowly. I've been working at it for about 13 years now, but sometimes it's a hard sell to let adult Catholics know that you can keep on learning. Now, we've done really great in terms of inroads with, we have Bible studies, which we started having those just seasonally, and now we have a group of over 50 that attend Bible studies on a regular basis all through the year. So I think that's good, but it's nowhere near where we need to be. We also have done a lot in doing our adult formation in and through our committee work. For example, liturgy and our wellness committee and areas and social action committee, so that we are partnering with those people and bringing faith formation out to where they see the needs most really. So that's worked very well as well.
Oh, that's great. And then how does your parish ensure good communications between and among all the groups in the parish, the deanery and the diocese, and to provide effective publicity for these events?
Once again, I think our staff are pivotal for that, and they keep an eye on things and what needs to be brought attention, but we have the full array of our newsletter and our bulletin, and we're looking at our website and how to make that, bring that up to date, and trying to reach out in ways that really are the way people need the information now. So
that's great.
It's kind of an overall approach.
And how does your parish encourage an ever-increasing level of participation in the life of the parish, the deanery and the diocese?
We have a very active association with the diocese through, for example, My More, or its ministers or religious education group, and we've been always really helping people to be participants in that. And also all of our catechists are encouraged to attend those in-services as they come up. And we've really made that to be what we really expect for people that are working with our programs. So it's done very well. We've always had the largest number of parishioners that attend those in the area. So we're thinking something's working in that regard.
Oh, that's great. And how does your parish recommend appropriate changes to the educational space and grounds to facilitate the safety, the upkeep, and the enhancement of the learning environment?
We really went through quite a plan with that. We did advanced planning and looking once again at our building spaces before our big building project that we accomplished and we finalized 3 years ago. That included how to finance it, looking at the diocesan planning regulations about the different space. We were doing some at the school and some at the parish. So we really wanted to keep in line with that, and we provided educational programs to back that up along the way. We concluded that process with town hall meetings that we were really meeting the needs. And then in particular, after that got set up, the preliminary plans, our committee worked for finalizing with the architect what we really wanted. So it was a wonderful process, and we were really pleased with the outcome on it. We have a wonderful gathering space now with a room for education and RCIA and meetings at the church, and we have new office space and security things for our school. So it's been a very well thought through process.
That's great. What else would you like to add about faith formation at Our Lady of Victory?
Well, I think we really have a lot of things going on, but we have a lot of pastor support. That's a really big factor. And he's right in there learning with the rest of us and being there at the school and at our faith formation, making himself available. So I think that's a very big plus for any kind of big parish, to still have that personal touch, that it's something that we're all concerned with and we can really promote. And I really think the opportunities are so wonderful to reach out to different aspects of the parish, our women, our men's group, and even the littlest ones. We have things for our youngest parishioners as well. So I think that focus of having that birth to death outlook is really paid off for a lot of different opportunities. It makes it a lot of fun as well.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Welcome.